There is a certain kind of person who can walk into any room and instantly sense which version of themselves each person wants to see. They do not simply lie, they study, adjusting tone, charm, and vulnerability, like a costume perfectly tailored to whoever happens to be watching. Most people assume manipulation always looks obvious, someone clumsy, transparent, and easy to catch the moment their true intentions start to show. But a master manipulator is rarely obvious at all. They are calm, likable, and often the very last person anyone would ever suspect. Today we are going to decode the psychology of the master manipulator and why their calculated charm is so difficult to recognize in time. Psychologists Delroy Paulhus and Kevin Williams identified a cluster of traits they named the dark triad: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy combined together. Each trait contributes something different. Narcissism brings grandiosity, psychopathy brings a lack of empathy, and Machiavellianism brings cold, calculated, strategic planning skills. Machiavellianism, specifically, named after the political philosopher Niccolo Machiavelli, describes a cynical worldview that treats other people as tools for personal gain. Researchers studying this trait note that individuals high in Machiavellianism often plan carefully, minimizing personal risk while maximizing long-term control over others. So where does this pattern actually come from? And why do certain people develop such calculated skill instead of forming genuine, honest connection? Some researchers suggest early environments shaped by inconsistency or reward for cunning behavior can reinforce these strategic, emotionally detached patterns over time. Others point toward a genuine deficit in emotional processing, where empathy simply does not activate the same way it does in most people. Whatever the origin, the result is the same: a person skilled at reading others while remaining fundamentally unmoved by their actual feelings. Let us break down the clearest signs of a master manipulator, starting with the trait most people notice only after real damage occurs. Sign 1. Calculated charm, where warmth appears immediately and effortlessly, often before any real trust has actually been earned through consistent behavior. This charm is not necessarily false in the moment, but it is deployed strategically, calibrated specifically to disarm suspicion and accelerate closeness quickly. Sign 2. Mirroring, where they subtly adopt your interests, values, and even speech patterns, creating an artificial sense of deep, instant compatibility. Psychologists describe mirroring as a real social bonding technique, but master manipulators use it deliberately, as a tool rather than genuine connection. Sign 3. Strategic vulnerability, where they share a carefully selected painful story early on, accelerating intimacy and discouraging you from questioning them. This vulnerability often feels disarming, since revealing pain typically signals trust, making it difficult to imagine the same person capable of deception. Sign 4. Triangulating relationships, where they quietly turn people against each other, positioning themselves as the only reliable, trustworthy source of information. This tactic isolates you from outside perspective, ensuring that their version of events remains the primary lens through which you interpret reality. Sign 5. Cold retaliation without visible anger, where consequences arrive calmly and precisely, rather than through the impulsive outbursts common in obvious conflict. Researchers note that individuals high in psychopathy often display shallow emotional reactions, allowing retaliation to feel eerily calm rather than visibly furious. Sign 6. Plausible deniability, where every manipulative action includes a built-in excuse, making direct confrontation feel unreasonable or genuinely difficult to prove. This constant ambiguity keeps you second-guessing your own read of the situation, since concrete evidence rarely feels solid enough to confront directly. So what happens to someone who spends months or years around a person skilled in these calculated, calm, and carefully deniable manipulation patterns? Their own instincts slowly grow quieter, since every accurate suspicion gets met with a smooth, reasonable explanation that feels difficult to challenge. They may begin doubting their own judgment entirely, wondering if they are simply too suspicious rather than accurately perceiving a genuine pattern. Understanding this pattern is the first step toward protecting yourself, because clarity removes the ambiguity that master manipulators depend on to operate. Here is the most important reframe: charm is not evidence of character. Consistency over time is the only reliable measure of genuine trustworthiness. So how can someone recognize this pattern clearly and respond in a way that protects their own judgment and emotional well-being going forward? First, slow down before extending trust, since master manipulators specifically rely on accelerated intimacy to bypass your natural protective sense of caution. Genuine relationships tend to build gradually, while manufactured closeness often arrives suspiciously fast, designed intentionally to shortcut your usual careful evaluation process. Second, watch behavior across many different contexts and over extended time, since charm is easy to fake but consistency never really is. Notice how they treat people who cannot benefit them, such as service workers or those without any social or professional power over them. Third, trust documented patterns over persuasive explanations, since master manipulators are often skilled verbally, making spoken justification less reliable than observed behavior. Keep a private record if needed, noting specific incidents rather than relying purely on memory, which persuasive explanation can subtly reshape over time. Fourth, seek outside perspective from people outside the manipulator's immediate influence, since isolation is often a deliberate strategy used to control your view. A trusted friend or therapist who is not entangled in the dynamic can offer a clearer, less distorted read on repeated behavior patterns. Fifth, pay attention to your own body's early signals, since subtle unease often appears before your conscious mind fully processes a manipulation attempt. That instinctive discomfort, even without concrete evidence yet, deserves genuine attention rather than quick dismissal in favor of a more comfortable explanation. Sixth, remember that confronting a master manipulator directly rarely produces the accountability you might hope for, given their skill at plausible deniability. Sometimes protecting yourself means quietly reducing exposure rather than seeking an admission of guilt that may simply never arrive no matter what. This information is valuable even when it is unsettling, because it allows you to make decisions based on consistent pattern rather than charm. If you recognize this pattern in someone close to you, understand that your growing unease likely reflects something real, not mere paranoia. You are not overreacting for noticing inconsistency beneath charm. Your instincts are simply responding accurately to a carefully constructed, strategic performance overall. The goal is not to become cynical toward everyone. The goal is to trust consistent behavior over persuasive words when the two clearly conflict. When you stop extending trust based purely on charisma, you slowly reclaim the discernment that manipulation specifically depends on you overlooking entirely. Real connection does not require constant charm. Real connection allows disagreement, imperfection, and vulnerability without needing to control your perception of events. Healing from this pattern often takes time, especially if calculated charm felt convincing long before you recognized the deeper pattern underneath it. Be patient with yourself as you rebuild trust in your own instincts, since a mind shaped by convincing deception does not recalibrate instantly. Small progress counts. Noticing one inconsistency is progress, trusting one instinct is progress, and choosing caution once is genuine, meaningful progress overall. Surround yourself, where possible, with people whose actions consistently match their words, since experiencing genuine reliability helps recalibrate your sense of trust. Over time, you may notice you no longer feel swept away by immediate charm, because you have learned to wait for consistency first. This is the quiet transformation that awareness brings, not paranoia toward everyone, but a steadier, more grounded way of extending trust wisely. You begin trusting your own perception again, no longer needing someone else's persuasive explanation to confirm whether your instincts are valid or accurate. That shift alone can change every relationship you enter afterward, because you stop mistaking charisma for character in the people you let close. Remember, the people who truly deserve your trust will welcome time, consistency, and scrutiny, rather than rushing you past your natural caution. Genuine connection looks completely different. It feels steady rather than dazzling. It feels safe rather than thrilling in a way that bypasses judgment. Learning that difference may be one of the most protective lessons you carry into every relationship you build for the rest of your life. And if you have ever recognized some of these patterns in yourself, know that awareness is the first step toward genuine, honest change. It is never too late to build influence through honesty rather than calculation, even if that shift feels unfamiliar at first practice. Growth rarely looks graceful in the beginning. It looks like small, uncomfortable moments of vulnerability that slowly become easier with consistent effort. Whether you have experienced this pattern or recognized it in yourself, the path forward is the same. Choose consistency, choose honesty, choose trust. If this video helped you recognize a pattern in your own life, leave a comment sharing which of the 6 signs felt most familiar. And remember, trusting consistent behavior over persuasive charm is not cynicism. It is simply the foundation of genuinely safe and healthy relationships. If this video gave you a new way to understand a confusing relationship, please like this video and share it with someone who needs it. Someone out there is currently being charmed by someone who has not yet earned that trust, and your share might offer real clarity. Thank you for staying with us until this very moment, watching all the way through a topic that touches so many confusing relationships. I'm Apex. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next journey into understanding the hidden patterns of human behavior. Goodbye for now, and I will see you again very soon in another exploration of the psychology hiding quietly beneath everyday human connection. Consider keeping a private mental note of moments when charm and behavior seem to conflict, since patterns are easier to trust when tracked. Notice also how your own body responds around this person, since tension or unease often signal something before your mind consciously names it. Trusting your body's signals alongside observed behavior creates a clearer, more reliable picture than relying on persuasive words alone during confusing moments. Remember that stepping back from a manipulative dynamic does not require the other person's agreement, understanding, or acknowledgement of the pattern they created. Your clarity is not conditional on someone else finally admitting the truth. Sometimes protecting yourself simply means trusting what you already clearly know. This clarity, once earned, becomes one of the most valuable tools you carry into every future relationship, professional, familial, and romantic alike. You deserve relationships built on demonstrated consistency rather than persuasive charm, where trust is earned slowly rather than claimed instantly through charisma. None of this makes you paranoid or unkind. It simply means you are finally choosing to trust your own judgment as much as words.